picture, we see a great northern diver, black-tailed godwit, Slavonian grebe, timid stint, spotted redshank, Scottish crossbill.
Any time on New York's 6th Avenue, you'll meet crazies, but not many will intone the names of birds like a charm to ward off muggers. One such, though, is Jim Vardaman of Jackson, Mississippi, who wants to be the world's greatest birdman, and for starters, plans to capture the British record.
It's just a question of whether we've got the time actually to go...
A bird-watching record? Yes, there is such a thing. And in the American way, Jim will pack high-tech firepower when he comes to sock it to us. I did something like it a few years back in the fishing race, but we didn't have a helicopter strike force.
In the helicopter.
Look at him, right below the helicopter.
Wow, 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 look at that.
A private Cessna jet.
Way to go, team. Let's go to Scotland.
State-of-the-art audio equipment, 1,000-pound quasar spyglasses. And somehow into the act has wandered a top British jazz musician. And then there's a hairy man of strange talents called Big Jake.
Ow, 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 ow. Ow, 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 ow.
Jim's assault on the birds of Britain will start in the reeds of the Norfolk Broads, holy ground to bird watchers. But watching birds, Jim finds dull, even foolish. Checking them off is what counts. And now he has to collect 152 in 24 hours, or he won't be champion birder of Britain. A twitcher is what traditional bird watchers would call him, and that's not all.
As I say, there's two types of bird watchers. There's the genuine bird watcher, and there's the gull warrior, which worry everything till it forsakes its nest and leave its territory and everything else.
You've heard of this big day venture.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of someone who goes around with a checklist, covers maybe 600-700 miles of countryside, just to see how many different sorts of birds you can find in one day?
Well, personally, I think he's crazy. That's my opinion.
I just, if people feel that way about it, I believe they just ought to sort of re-examine the way they look at the world, because birding, nothing could be more harmless than birds. You just look at them through the binoculars, you don't shoot them, you don't catch them, you just look at them. Now, what could be more harmless than that? And if you want to look at birds this way, and I want to look at birds this way, who's to say which is right and whose business is of anybody's what either one of us does?
Well, it's harmless, certainly. And so is dressing up like Napoleon, or more appropriately, General Patton. Jim indeed did his most special bird watching from the turret of a tank in the Battle of the Bulge back in 1944.
Well, you stay outside, so we didn't check in a motel at night. We lived in the field. And in tank warfare, you can go down the road and my head stuck out of the tank. And every now and then the head of the column runs into resistance. So everybody else just stops. And after you stop for long enough, you turn off the engine. And there you are, standing out in the middle of nowhere. You could just go, take up birding right in the middle of the damn war.
But doesn't that mean that you might miss an 88 pointing at you?
Well, if it were an 88 pointing at you, you wouldn't see him, and if he fired at you, you wouldn't hear it coming, and if it hit you, it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference otherwise.
And you'd have made your last little checkpoint in your little blue book?
Yeah, just as you were looking like that, it would have been maybe the bird watcher's ultimate death. He's sitting there watching a bird, and bam! When you get kind of resistance and you got to deploy the tanks, then you get in a line like this, and you all go across the field, and everybody who's got a gun shoots. It helps your morale, see, to make a lot of noise. Also, if there are little bumps out there, you shoot at those bumps because it may be infantry foxhole, and there may be an infantryman in it with a bazooka. Well, of course, with all these tanks lined up going across there, and machine guns chattering away, all of a sudden up jumps a pheasant. And you can just call off the damn war. Everybody who sees the pheasant turns his machine gun on it, and you look up and here's one poor little pheasant zooming away, and just a hail of tracer bullets you can see. Everybody shoots at the pheasant. And of course, I've never saw any one of them get hit.
But Jim, they didn't give you a silver star for shooting pheasants, did
No,
they?
they didn't give me a silver star for shooting pheasants.
What was
But
that?
I had a hell of a lot of fun shooting pheasants.
The couple in an uneasy semi-trance who seem unsure if they're in church or on holiday are clients of Brian Bland, professional birder, who's also on Jim's team.
Again.
When they booked their vacation in faraway Neen, Wisconsin, John and Elizabeth Hapler just thought in terms of spotting a few nightjars or maybe a bittern or two. How wrong they were.
Now, if you can remember that phrase, which is a piece of the second movement of Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto, and you hear it being whistled in an explosive manner, providing it's not Big Jake crawling about in the reeds, it'll be a Chetty's warbler. Here it is again. That's the one again. It's just like a wren singing the second movement of Beethoven's Piano Concerto. That's all you have to listen for. So if you tune your ears into that,
I want to show you one of my secret weapons. 2 electronic ears. They're just regular hearing aids, made often by the state, in the States, common in the States at least. And to put them in your ear, you just stick it over there and kind of screw it in, make sure it's in. And they're now in place, and when I get ready to turn it on, I turn that little button like that, and I can hear that blackbird singing like crazy over there. I turn this little button like here, and I'm a brand new man.
In their watery heaven, meantime, the wildfowl of Norfolk are unaware that to Jim they are merely list fodder. To achieve his aim, to break the existing record of 151 British species observed in a 24-hour period, the bald eagle of Jackson has had to study hard. There are not many Icelandic gulls, for instance, in Mississippi. His immediate task is to figure the difference between the song of the Savi's warbler and the grasshopper warbler. And what presently sounds in fact like an expensive noise in your teletube is merely the grasshopper warbler moving into top gear.
And that's a grasshopper warbler.
correct.
I don't even
Excellent,
have
Jim.
my, I don't even have my
You don't even have your
electronic
electronic ears in. Very good.
And now you're going to play the Savis?
Now here's the Savis. More like a... Of course, one big advantage of the ABA rules is that birds heard only can be counted. I've never been much in favour of this myself because I find it much more interesting to see the bird, and usually I locate the bird on call and then find it. But obviously if you're trying to see or hear as many species in a day as possible, once you hear it, move on to the next one. Now this means we can use quite a bit of the hours of darkness in locating one or two species which we wouldn't have time for during the day. For instance, Savis and grasshopper warblers.
As soon as possible.
Vardaman's hired men, meantime, look like a pair of urban terrorists plotting a big bang. But it's only next day's route they're planning.
Can you get under the railway bridge for the minibus?
No, we'll have to park in the official car park and walk or run, as the case may be.
Right, yeah.
You say run?
Only a few hundred yards, Jim.
You got to be careful about that running business. I'm not going to run anywhere.
Jim, what are you compiling there?
You remember I told you I was going to give you a list, a report about how we are standing? Come around here and I'll show you. Well, what I've done here is take this code that we put in last night. All the birds I've listed down this side are the ones we are certain to see. The birds I've listed here, we are certain to see if we see them in Norfolk. And the birds I've listed down here are the ones that have any uncertain status at all. And
It's the kind of code, clearly, that would be no fun at all to crack without an Enigma machine and an IBM computer.
And there are 134 by my count, so we're going to get 134 if we can live to this coming midnight. I'm going to keep this in my pocket, and if we see them, I'm going to cross them off.
I made my excuses and left, somewhat glassy-eyed and knowing when I was beaten. Your hardcore birder, though, delights in complex lists and schedules, and some say it can become a hard addiction.
I think we've got to admit, in fact, that at that level, it is a kind of drug. And it can be a drug with disastrous effects on some people, as any other drug. And at that level, it is a collecting game, just like collecting train numbers or anything else. This is often sneered at in itself, you know, but it's a basic part of the human makeup. The desire